Hey traders, and happy Sunday. Welcome back to another weekly video where we go over the markets together for the week ahead. And I usually talk about trading setups and ideas that I am looking at myself. If you're new to my channel, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, welcome, thank you for being here. I want to start where we oftentimes do, which is of course the dollar. And we have to talk about the most recent price action and development that we saw last week on the dollar. With the first half of the week, we saw the dollar decline pretty rapidly. This was mostly the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision to raise by 25 basis points. We saw the market shoot to the downside there for the dollar. But then following that, we saw a bit of a retracement back up and then a follow-through push on Friday's NFP jobs numbers. Jobs numbers came out at 517K in the United States, which were beating expectations and caused the dollar to spike pretty tremendously to the upside. Now, analyzing the price action of the dollar specifically, here's what I pay attention to most here. So what we can see here is these levels in red were considered key levels of resistance. And notice when we zoom into price here that it came up into this level here, 102.5, touched into this area, wicked above it, and found an initial response to the downside. This shows us that these levels here are being reacted to by price pretty strongly. And so when we see that this level here held pretty well, but now it's broken above and even ended the week closing outside of the top of this resistance that we have at 102.8. What does that leave us with? Well, it leaves us with our major levels of resistance not holding well enough. Yes, you got some wicks. Yes, you got some attempts in this area and this area, but not enough to actually close this down and shoot it to the downside. In fact, quite the opposite. We ended super strong. So overall, the dollar going into this week, I am definitely not interested in just jumping into a bunch of shorts on the dollar. This looks very, very strong. Is it full-blown bullish? Well, not necessarily, because what I'd like to see if I was to be bullish would be a continuation push, pullbacks, and possibly some retests. Now, there are actually some trades that if you're a dollar bull, I actually kind of like going long the dollar. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to trading, trying to hold on to a losing side of a position is a really dangerous tactic. And in fact, I oftentimes will just move to go with the trend. And so right now, as this dollar attempts to break out, my question will be, can prove it to us? Can we get above 103? Can we break above? And if so, if we start to pull back, there may be some opportunities to look to get long the dollar for a short-term continuation, as price action is, to be fair, looking pretty bullish as we try to break out of this resistance point. Now, I mentioned I have some ideas of specific currency pairs that I'd be interested in trading. By the way, this level now, until further notice, needs to be acknowledged for what it is. These levels are now demand. So when we go look at the Edge Finder, I want to show you guys something. If we go into our watch list page, and what this does is it filters all the major assets that we pay attention to using the software. And I want to look at some of the dollar crosses here. This is where things are going to get interesting. The dollar actually poked up now as a relatively bullish asset. You've got dollar CAD as a possible buy, and you've got on the flip side euro dollar as a possible sell, and NZD USD possible sell, and pound USD AUDUSD. The Edge Finder, for the first time in a while, is actually calling for some bullishness on the dollar. Now, why? Why is it calling, it's not just a gut call, this is software. So why is the software calling for some potential continuation on the dollar? Well, what we can see here is that if we take any of these, and I'll take actually several of them, let's start with EURUSD. I'll pull up the individual sheet and we'll pull this up. And while we do that, let's also go look at EURUSD. So with a sell side perspective coming in, what does that tell us? And why be sell biased? Well, first of all, from a price action standpoint, you can kind of see we fell apart there on Friday. And again, I don't even think that there's a wick on the bottom of this candle. It literally closed at the lows last Friday. So how do we get involved? Well, if we're looking at the euro dollar, this level of support is the line of defense for bulls, right? Bulls 1.08, this is a huge level of support. And if this level breaks, that's going to be a possible continuation push for sellers. So ideally, if we were looking for some possible resistance points, it would be a break below this and a pullback into it, right? So that's something I am definitely watching for on the sell side on Euro USD. I'm actually quite intrigued by looking to get long on the dollar if it sets up. And so this is taking some priority of my focus this week in the currency side of things. Now, going back to the edge finder, why bullish? Well, the euro, we can kind of go down and walk through the list. Now, in terms of COT data, the US dollar and the euro are both considered or are being held by institutional traders on the long side. But if we flip things around, we take a look at retail sentiment, it's about 50-50. So there's not a whole lot of bias that we're going to get from sentiment analysis. Now, many traders who only use sentiment analysis, they may end it there, right? Oh, there's nothing here, so no trade. Well, if that's your style, then hey, do that what works for you, but I like to also incorporate the fundamentals. And this is really where we're getting a strong bias to the downside on the euro. Take a look here. GDP growth outpaces in the US. Inflation is at a better number at 6.5% in the US. Unemployment is higher in the euro area and lower in the US. So that's of course advantageous to the dollar. And interest rates are higher in the US. So yes, I actually think that if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick the dollar in this case. And yes, the euro looks strong right now, and it has looked strong for a while. So what I'm looking for is, from a technical analysis perspective, a break to the downside prior to trying to look to enter. And even if I do enter, again, let's say break, retest, stop loss is going to go into this position here. I'm gonna give it some room in case price wants to move around at this level. But overall, looking to be right pretty quickly. Otherwise, I'll get out of there. So if I take that trade, you guys will see it inside of our Discord channel. And if you're not already inside of our Discord channel, I share all of my trades with full breakdowns within it. So if you'd like to join that, you're more than welcome to. Down below in the description, we have two options for you. You can join the paid version, which gets you access to the trade signals. And if you would just like to get the free version, there is also a free variation as well in the description down below. Click that link down below in the description. You get sent a form. You just fill out that form and you're welcomed into the Discord group. So hope to see some of you guys in there. So again, euro dollar looking for a break underneath and continuation. Pound USD is the next up on the list, which got absolutely hammered this past week. The dollar strength come back in and broke all the way through this level of support here. And I mentioned on my stream on Friday for NFP that if we had gotten some sort of pullback into this level, I was going to be looking to get short. Unfortunately, I narrowly missed it here on the spike. We didn't quite come back into that zone, but I was looking for the trade and unfortunately was left behind. This happens in trading. It's a bit frustrating when it does happen, but hey, we move on and we look for more opportunities. So where am I at with the pound now? Well, we had this explosive move to the downside, right? A really, really quick sell-off. And so if price does pull back up into some levels of resistance, I like the 38.2. You have now pretty much completely fallen apart on this upward trajectory that we had, right? So I'm looking for a pullback. So going into this week, if the pound can get a bit of a rally up into zones like the 1.2179, I'm looking for shorts at that region with possibly a second attempt at that 61.8 as a backup. Both of these look like interesting areas for me to possibly sell. And when pulling up the pound USD, you can also see it here on the edge finder. We have quite the confirmation. We have a strong sell overall. And you can see this is like the strongest reading you can possibly get on the edge finder. You have a -2. So institutional data, 64.74% long percentage, right? And institutional traders, very short biased on the pound. Retail sentiment, the crowd is long. The institutional traders are short. And now if we take a look at fundamentals, just like the euro, the dollar in every category is favorited. So very, very interesting to see. This is a rare signal that we don't usually get from the edge finder. This such a strong confirmation. We have everything lining up for a possible sell. This very rarely happens where we get every single one of them to line up like this, a full red wave, if you will. Not even trying to get political. That sounded political. I didn't mean it like that, but a red wave of selling signals here on the edge finder. And so kind of an interesting one, definitely looking for that pullback, pound USD. And you can see that's partially why we've seen such a flush to the downside. It seems that the pound is just the much less favored of the two. If I take this trade again, it'll be shared inside of the Discord. By the way, you guys, if you're not using the edge finder, if you would like to, we do have a sale going on right now. You can find out information down below in the description. you can get access to the Edge Finder. It's a one-time purchase. It's not something you have to pay monthly for, although if you would like to do payments and installments, that is something we also offer. You're welcome to do that. The link is down below in the description if you'd like to find out information or chat with one of our team representatives. We also have trials available for the Edge Finder that will also be linked on the page that's in the description down below. So yeah, I mean, that's a crazy signal from pound USD, and we'll keep going. A lot of dollar crosses coming up on the list today. I would like to take a quick look at AUDUSD as well. So we talked briefly about this one on Friday's NFP release as well. We talked about a pullback into this zone. Doesn't seem like we got it, so missed the boat there a little bit, but not, you never know. Price could get a bit of a push back up into that area. From there, I'm looking for a continuation down to 68.80 and perhaps even beyond. So there's where I'm at with AUDUSD. Again, we could pull that one up just quickly on the Edge Finder. You can see getting a -7 across the board. Very, very strong sell signal there on the Aussie. Okay, so another one from the watch list here. We'll flip around. We'll look at a bullish case scenario, USD CAD. We've discussed this one here. This one had a pretty explosive move. What I don't love about dollar CAD is that we still, on the 4-hour chart, we've got this lower high concept going on. So for me here, if the dollar CAD can break through resistance, then pullbacks are in order, and looking for that continuation this week could be of interest. Now, again, a lot of this stuff is dependent on what the dollar decides to do. If it pulls back, there may be some buys, and if it breaks out, there may be some pullbacks to wait for after that, if that makes sense. But we have a lot of things to pay attention to this week. I talked on my yesterday's video about the S&P and NASDAQ. Both of them I am bullish on as well. So stay tuned on that. Keep an eye on those. Or watch that video from yesterday if you'd like to catch up on my thoughts there. NZDUSD also on the list here, so we'll take NZDUSD, pull this one up here, which also moved explosively to the downside. Huge flush move. And again, this one looks like it's probably keen on getting back down into the 62.40s. Yeah, that's looking like it wants to do that, right? We've completely broken this upward trajectory that we had going on this 4-hour chart. So going into this week, if it does pull back before trying to push lower into this 62.60, 62.50, I would be looking for some possible premium selling opportunities up in this region. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And again, we can pull that one up on the Edge Finder, quickly go over NZDUSD, which gets a sell rating on the Edge Finder, -5. And yeah, so you can kind of just visually go through this. But if we look at this US dollar, still very strong from COT data. Institutional data for NZD is pretty mixed, 56 to 50 or 44, so not a lot there. Retail sentiment, the crowd is buying NZD USD. That's a bearish signal for us, as we know the crowd tends to lose money and tends to be, unfortunately, on the wrong side of some of the best trades out there. It's kind of a pattern that that we've recognized for years now. It's unfortunate, but very oftentimes when you have something like this moving, the retail crowd is buying it. They're buying, and they're just getting stopped out or holding on to giant losses until it blows their account. It's a sad fact, but it almost always is the case. If you have the Edge Finder, just go to the retail sentiment on anything that's moving strong, and typically that is the case. XAUUSD, so this one absolutely fell apart. And if you guys were watching the live stream that I did on Friday, then you know that I actually stopped out on this one. I was long, so let me see if I can show you. So I was looking for longs on gold, and I actually ended up pulling a buy signal right around here. So in this case, went long in this area, and it completely fell apart. So I took a small loss. It was a very small loss. I lost a couple $100 on this one. Nothing serious. And I was watching this 1900 level, and I made a whole tweet about this. If you guys are following me on Twitter, if you're not, it's at TraderNickFX. Follow me on Twitter. I've put out some of my thoughts throughout the week and trading setups and stuff like that. But I put out on Twitter that I was looking for a possible re-entry at that 1900 mark. And it came, and I didn't take the trade because this candle on the jobs number right here, this is the NFP release. So NFP was right here, right? So NFP came out and it dropped so hard and so fast. I didn't have any pending orders. I was watching to see what price action did. It never even paused for very long at all at that 1900 mark, flushed right through it. And so I avoided jumping into that trade using the lower time frames. And because I avoided taking that trade, I ended up saving myself a couple bucks. So, you know, the point is I was watching this thing, like I said, on like the 15-minute, 30-minute chart during that stream. And here is the candle. You can see it had no hesitation pushing right through the lows of that 1900 mark. So I decided to avoid that one. So now gold has sort of fallen out of my vision for things to buy because, again, it's dropped so hard, so strong, and the dollar quickly has sort of taken precedence there. So I'm going to avoid going long on gold at this time, though I am also not short either and don't have any interest in being short. So again, if I'm going to look to get long the dollar, it's going to not actually be looking to short gold. It's going to probably be one of the other things that we discussed in this video so far. But for that sake, just for the technical traders out there, we have to give the bears credit. We saw a huge move to the downside. We broke through levels of support, and those very same levels of support could now act as key levels of resistance. So let's go ahead and mark that. And yes, you know, when it comes to my technical analysis, oftentimes people will ask me like, "Oh, Nick, your technicals are lacking." Like, and hey, you can always improve, but I actually do try to keep it as simple as I possibly can. I don't get super complicated with my stuff. It's very, very simple. I like fibs. I like support and resistance. I like market structure. I just like trend following, right? Higher highs, higher lows, that sort of thing. Technical analysis is one side of things. The, of course, other side is where we incorporate the edge finder, where we get sentiment analysis and fundamental analysis. We kind of string it all together to form a bias. So from a technical perspective, gold moving through these lows was huge. So for sellers, they'd probably want to see that same 1900 level that I wanted as a bull to hold on the sell side to continue pushing lower. Now, again, like I said, I'm not really interested in shorting gold. It's been such an explosive move, and yes, it probably has more room to the downside as the dollar kind of expands. But for now, I'm just going to stay on the sidelines for this one. Guys, if you want access to the Edge Finder, if you want to try it out, or you would like to join our Discord community where you can see the trading signals being shared by myself, Frank, and Ivan, all of that information is linked down below in the description. There's also a bunch of free stuff there for you. If you are trying to improve and you need some help, we have plenty of free resources linked in the description. Thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great trading week.